So I just reported on Shaky Sean getting sentenced to 10 years at least. We don't know how long in the final count it's going to be because he's got another sentencing day coming up in May, man. But we got some more OGs that have been busted, man, and this time it's the Stones. So the Finball is taking a hit on the south side this time, man, because from the far south side, down from the 90s down there, there's a set called Rack City, and they just busted a bunch of them, and this is the feds. So they're not playing around. This is the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Northern District of Illinois. It's 9 guys, and they've been charged in Chicago. And they're members, they say, alleged members of the Black Keystone Nation. And 8 of them are from Chicago, and 1 of them is from the suburbs. So they were charged in federal court on several different charges, okay? Possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. That one's not that big, but then we got firearms trafficking. That one is really big. And trafficking, distribution, and conspiracy to distribute drugs, including fentanyl, heroin, fentanyl-laced heroin, which is really dangerous, cocaine, and crack cocaine. So Rack City is a set that's been around for a while, at least as far back as 2011, as far as I know, possibly before that. So this is not one of these brand new sets that just the shorties, have come up with in like recent years. This one has been there for a while, man, and we got some guys in that area that are old. Now, the older guys, like the guys in their 50s, I don't know if they claim Rack City or if they just claim Stone, period. Because, when I was growing up, like I'm not as old as these guys, and when I was growing up, it was just Stone. Like you were just a Stone or nothing. It wasn't like this set or that set. I mean, they had different neighborhoods, they would call it different neighborhoods, but as far as like claiming different stuff and having different gang signs, I don't remember anything like that. It was just Stone GDs, Vice Lords, Four Corner Hustle, like that was it. And back then too, there was still a lot of structure in it. You had leaders that would give orders, and if guys got out of line, they got violations. And the Stones is one of the gangs that had more structure. And if you haven't seen that interview with my mom that I did, go check that out. She talked about meeting the founder of the Stones, Chief Malik, who's locked up, and she said, he was one of the nicest guys that she's ever met, and she didn't know too much about what he had going on, but he was involved in some efforts at that time to squash a lot of the stuff that was going on the streets. My granddad had brought him over to the house, and they were involved in like some negotiations to try to get the guys to squash the beef. So having leaders is one of the things that it made that possible. Today, I don't know if that kind of a thing would be possible, man. And I don't know how much pull any of these guys had, but one guy, his street name is Red. His government name is Steve, and he's 56, so the same age as Shaky Sean, and he's the one charged with firearms trafficking. So again, common question on the channel: where do these guns come from? Who's bringing the guns into the neighborhoods? And I keep telling you guys, the same way as the drugs, man. Guys traffic the stuff. That's counts 1 and 4. He's also charged with possession with intent to distribute a controlled substance, and that's 40 grams of more of a mixture and a substance containing a detectable amount of fentanyl. That's count 2. Then he's got possession with intent to distribute a controlled substance, and that's 100 grams or more of a mixture and substance containing a detectable amount of heroin. So he's the oldest guy that I know of that's involved in this. He's 56. Okay, so I don't know if he was like had any pull over the younger guys or not. Some of these older guys do, some of them don't. But then we got a guy named Marcus. He's 38, and he's from the suburbs. He's charged with distribution of a controlled substance, 500 grams or more of a mixture and substance containing a detectable amount of cocaine. Then we got a guy named Josephus. His street name is JMO, and he's 35. He's charged with distribution of a controlled substance, and this is heroin. So he was charged with distributing heroin, and also cocaine base. That's in counts 2 and 4. He's also charged with firearms trafficking, count 3, and conspiracy to distribute a controlled substance, namely 40 grams or more of a mixtures and substance containing fentanyl. So the fent, this is something that's been making the news a lot because it's sending the death rate among users through the roof, right? And a lot of high-profile people, including celebrities, have died off of fentanyl-laced stuff. So fentanyl is highly dangerous. The cartels are involved in all that stuff. And another interesting video that might be a topic for another day is, the connection between these street gangs and a lot of the cartels. Because, the guys bringing in this stuff, they're not interacting typically with like the shorties on the street that you see and, you buy your stuff from. It's like the older guys. But some of these older guys are making some serious money doing that, man, and it's tough to, it's tough to bust some of these guys because, they insulate themselves sometimes, but when they finally get him, they bring him down. Now we got a guy named Calvin. His street name is White Boy, and they got him on conspiracy to distribute 40 grams or more of mixtures and substances containing fentanyl. And then a guy named Itch, that's his street name. He's 45, and he's charged with dealing crack. Then a guy named Fernando, and his street name is Enterprise. Now, he actually is the oldest one. I'm sorry. This guy is actually 67, and he was caught with 500 grams or trying to distribute 500 grams or more of a mixture and substance containing a detectable amount of cocaine. That's what he's charged with. I don't know if they actually caught him with it, but then there's a guy named Alex. He's 47. So you hear these guys' ages 67, 47, 56, 45. Like the OGs, man, sometimes they stay in the game too long, man. And I said on the last video in the comments, when these guys had the chance, they should have just gone into legit business. It's tempting because I know a lot of guys, man, they can go legit, like a lot of these gangs have done. But instead of doing that, or while doing that, or while trying to do that, they'll have the plug who still knows them and still has their number. And then he says, I got this load or whatever. And then the guys, it's tempting to think, well, just this one last time, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like that quick, easy money. Well, just this one last time. This is the last time. After this, I'm just, run the business or whatever. And they do it that time. And then, okay, then he calls again. And it's always just one more time. And one more time turns into two more times, turns into three more. And before you know it, the feds got you. It's like these guys, you see how old they are. So when they get to be this age and they get booked, they got only themselves to blame. And there's a guy named Baby Stone, and he's 35. And as part of this set, they're calling him Baby Stone. 35 is like a senior citizen for most of these sets now. But he's charged with possession of a weapon as a convicted felon, so he might not get that much time. Then there's a guy whose street name is Twigs, and he's actually the youngest guy. He's 33. He's charged with possession of a weapon as a convicted felon. So the younger guys, they're not facing that serious stuff. But the Stones, interestingly, on the South Side, man, they used to be very much about the lit, and more so than the GDs. They were like very organized, but they've kind of gone the way of the GDs as far as the younger generation, as far as like just being disorganized now. But you see some of these older guys still do things by the book, and know the lit and all that kind of thing. But most of the younger guys are not doing it. And today you got these sets like mixed Stones and GDs. Back in the day, if you were a Stone, like you were a op to GDs everywhere in the city, period. Like Stones, Vice Lords, Four Corner Hustlers, you didn't get along with the folks, period, point blank. Today, you'll find these sets that's got like some Stones, some Vice Lords, some GDs, like all in the same set. It's kind of, for guys my age, it's still weird, man. But anyways, man, five of the, not everybody's a member of Rack City that's part of this, but about six of the guys are, including the guy, the 56-year-old I was saying, he's part of Rack City. And their territory, for those of you guys who don't know, is around 93rd and Halstead on the south side of Chicago, man. So that's like not as far as the hundreds, but far south side. And two of the guys are associates of the Rack City faction, they said, but they're from a different faction of the Black Stones. So they didn't say what set they're from, but two of these guys are not Rack City. So Stones back in the day were very much about their religion. It was a Muslim gang. The thing is, though, they didn't really like live by the rules of Islam. You know what I'm saying? I mean, in Islam, sex before marriage, drinking, drugs, killing, like all that stuff is forbidden. I mean, a lot of these guys, like they'll like not eat pork, but then they'll like watch porn, like be having sex with all these different women. That's like getting a flu shot and then going and eating something that's got Ebola on it. They do a bunch of stuff that's like forbidden, So I mean, I'm not saying these guys personally, but I'm just saying like they do the same stuff most of the Stones do that every other gang does. I mean that. Like most gang members do, like live the same type of lifestyle. It's not like Stones live a more disciplined life because of the Islam stuff. A lot of these Stones are not even really Muslim, and you have some of these gangs that have, they'll use like the Christian cross as their symbol and stuff. But all these things that they do, all this stuff with like the sex and the drugs, and like this is forbidden in pretty much all the monotheistic religions, and they're not following the stuff. So I wouldn't really say that they actually live that stuff. These guys personally in this video, like though, in this set, I don't know anything about them personally or their lifestyle though. I wouldn't really call it a Muslim gang. It may have that like style to it or whatever as far as the symbols and stuff like that. But when people ask like, is it a Muslim gang? I mean, they don't live by that stuff, bro. Like they just don't. So this was a multi-year investigation, and like I said with the feds, man, a lot of times they watch these guys for years before they finally sweep down. They're watching them commit crimes and do more crimes, and guys might think to themselves like, well, they can't be on to us because we're doing this, we're doing that, and they haven't booked us. We would have been in jail already. I've heard guys say this a million times, like we would have been in jail already if they were onto us. And meanwhile, they're watching and just taking a record of all the stuff that they're doing. And then when the case finally does come down, it's got all this stuff from all these years, and it's like they got no chance in court. So yeah, that doesn't mean that they're not watching you just because they're not booking you. And anyways, man, so this was a multi-year investigation, and they seized approximately 62 firearms, seized 6 kilos of cocaine, 500 grams of heroin and fentanyl, approximately 250 grams of crack cocaine. So all 9 defendants are in law enforcement custody. And the arraignments were in the district court in Chicago. And there was a lot of assistance from the state police, from the Cook County Sheriff's Office Intelligence Unit, and Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, and the Rosemont Police Department. So you see all the collaboration between all these different agencies. They got the IRS, like they got the state police. I mean, all these different, agencies are passing information to each other. Some guys, man, they get in trouble with the cops, and it's like, okay, this is the only trouble that I'm going to be in because it's just the cops. And meanwhile, the cops are passing all this stuff to the feds. So there's like a stereotype that the cops and the feds don't get along, but that's really not true in this day and age. They really do get along for the most part. They're tag teaming guys all over the place in Chicago now, man. But these guys, I guarantee you, are not the only guys doing stuff like this. And guys see other guys get away with it. They just pick on. To me, it seems random. I honestly don't get it, like why they go after certain sets and others they don't. I was thinking that when they were going after Wicked Town, the Vice Lords on the West Side, and when they were going after those other TBLs, I forget what the set was. This was a few years ago, but yeah, they just pick certain sets, man. They've done this to a lot of sets of the Kings, and they just watch these guys for years. And I don't know if they have the resources to do this, on a large scale with everybody, but they just pick on these certain sets and they go after them. And I don't know what triggers. I'd be interested to know what triggers like their attention to certain, sets. I don't know, like versus other sets, because like I said, there's so many sets doing stuff in Chicago these days. It's like you could randomly just pick anybody, but I don't know, man. But yeah, we'll see if these guys, beat the case. But they said it's a multi-year investigation, so the feds bide their time, man, and they get a lot of evidence before they finally take you to court, because trials are expensive, very expensive for the government. So they got to make sure they got all their ducks in a row. Anyway, when you see the report, I'm out.